that. How y'all doing?
All right.
And can everyone join me in giving Alfonso another round of applause?
That's cheap.
All right, I'm gonna introduce Alfonso to you all really quick. I have a little bit of a little brief biographical information for you. So Alfonso is a Queens, New York born,
Queens.
and raised award-winning filmmaker and actor. Filmmaker and actor, so we'll get to that in a second, who has been performing since childhood, appearing in a number of plays and television shows, including HBO's Boardwalk Empire. Ever as a creative talent, he's also tried his hand as in stand-up comedy. His films have appeared in over 100 film festivals internationally. The film that you just finished watching, Moths Butterflies, recently won top honors at the 2018 American Black Film Festival, winning the HBO Award for Best Short Film. Alfonso is currently developing the screenplay for his as yet untitled debut feature film. All right.
That sounds good.
You got a lot going on. So, I mean, I have plenty of questions, but we're going to turn it over to the audience in a sec. But one thing, I know this may be minor or it could be major, but as I was watching Moths and Butterflies, what's going on with the food? What's the story behind the plate and the way the food was set up?
That's his OCD.
Okay.
It's mild.
Right.
I mean, everybody has their own quirks and idiosyncrasies that kick in from time to time.
Right.
And for this particular character, you know, I wanted to focus on his anxiety and his insecurities as it pertains to his schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. But I wanted to kick in just a small touch of, you know, his idiosyncrasies, which could be interpreted as OCD.
Got you. And what for you was the motivation behind Moths and Butterflies?
So can y'all hear me? Y'all good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So when in 2011, on my birthday, my god sister's best friend killed herself, and we were all supposed to go out that night. I was like, oh shit, like I think I might have been, I don't know, I was 22, 23, and I just was like, man, like this is crazy. Like I didn't know how to process it because for one, she was gorgeous, and I had a little crush on her. I was looking forward to kicking it with her that night. But then to see someone so filled with life do that, it was the first time in my life where I kind of was like, what's happening here? And then when I was younger, one of my aunts, she was committed to a mental facility for 2 months. And I didn't understand, and I was a kid, so nobody told me. They was like, oh no, she's just not feeling well. And then with me, my own anxiety from, you know, just day to day, you know. So those are some of the things that inspired the film.
And I appreciate you doing this work for so many reasons, but I mean, especially dealing with the mental health issue and seeing that on film. I mean, we know that there's incredible stigma in the Black community when it comes to mental health. I know when the first time I saw a counselor, I did it behind my parents' back against their wishes. You know, I think I was 19, maybe 20. But I have white friends who go to therapy like they're going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, there's that, you know, that huge, I guess, discrepancy in the way, you know, Black Americans view mental health and the way white Americans view mental health. What do you think it will take to challenge that stigma?
I mean, you know, it's funny, like, I wrote the first draft of this film October 2016, and then I shot it August 2017. So if I was doing this film now, if I was writing it now, you know, I don't think it would have done what it's doing, because now people are talking about it. You know, HBO, who's been wonderful, Insecure, I don't know if y'all watch Insecure, it looks like season 4, they're gonna talk about it with, I think his name was Nathaniel, his new love. Nathan, his new love interest, and then Molly with her therapist. You know, Jay-Z, 444, he talks about seeing a therapist. You know, Kanye West is clearly in mania these days. No, there's a lot going on that we are starting to talk about, and you're right. You know, in regards to seeing a therapist, You know, when my father passed away when I was a child, and my mother signed me up for therapy to help with the transition of things, and I just thought it was great because as a kid I had someone to talk to about my whatever, and then at 31 years old I'm more communicative and I'm more expressive than my partner, my girlfriend, and a lot of my friends, and so it has informed my scope of the world, and so with that being said, I'm glad that now we're talking about it. There's a book that you all should pick up. I'm not getting paid for this advertising. Charlemagne for Power Breakfast Club. He's got a great book, Shook Ones. So go get that. I'm gonna get that myself.
Came out.
It came out, yeah, like a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago, yeah. And
What's the name of it?
Shook One. Shook. It's a spin on Mobb Deep's record, Shook Ones. You know. So yeah. So I'm glad that we're challenging it. But in regards to the stigma, though, I think that came from way back to slavery times when the black man was supposed to be strong because you can't show any weakness, and you know, I think that's a negative stereotype that's been perpetuated over time, even by ourselves.
Right, and hopefully a little bit later when we have Enjoli up here, she can talk to why she selected the film she did, because I think, you know, it was incredible to have the previous film. What was the name of the third film?
The third film, Figure.
Figure. To have Figure precede your film. I mean, I think that was an excellent pairing on your part, Enjoli. So definitely like to hear more about that a little bit later. I was listening to, I guess, the acceptance speech that you gave when you won the HBO award, and you said you, at one point in your career, felt like an imposter.
Still do.
All right, can you explain that? Because we're looking at your work now, and you know, we see no reason why you should feel that way.
You know, it's like the director of Figure. Where's he from?
The UK. Well, he's actually Nigerian, but he's based in the UK.
Okay. So I want to learn more about that. But for the most part, you know, I started as a comic. You know, well, first off, I started as a tap dancer when I was about 12 or 13, and then I started doing stand-up, and I was an actor. And then in 2010, I got really sick. I was in the hospital, and I just quit. It was like, who gives a fuck about acting when you're trying to learn how to walk again? Like, no, that doesn't matter. And so, and around that same time, Django Unchained was getting filmed. Zoe Saldana was cast to play Nina Simone, which was ridiculous. There was, you know, television and film didn't look like what it does now. And the big discussion within the inner circles in New York City was lack of representation and inclusion. And we said, what are we gonna do to change this narrative? So I think Awkward Black Girl was still on YouTube, and now it's a big hit. And I remember saying, you know what, I got something to say. And so I just kind of, because I did a couple of movies and TV shows, I had those scripts, and I just started. Now, because I didn't go to film school, and because a lot of my counterparts did, and a lot of them are flourishing, I always felt like I snuck in the back door. You know, I always felt like, because like I still don't know a lot about film. You know, I was out there at the bookstore on one of those things, looking at, you know, how to make a film. You don't know how to direct. You know, because I want to learn more. And I learned how to make a film by watching 2-3 movies a day. You know, so that's why for a long time I felt like an imposter, because I didn't have the quote-unquote credentials. I didn't finish college. And so a lot of those things that I realized that I thought was my poison was actually my vitamins, because the ignorance helped me to soar.
And the fact that for some people, film school can even be an impediment to their creativity.
Some of them, they beat the creativity out of you so that you can fit a mold of how those institutions' films look.
Exactly. Any questions from the audience?
Did you have a script for that last one, for Moths and Butterflies?
Moths and Butterflies, did they have a script?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are two. They're not ill. Those are two actors. There was a good script that I'm very proud of. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a script for it.
Yeah, there was one line. Let me see if I can find it. I was taking notes. Oh yeah, there was one line with Sharice. She said, "I asked you how you've been, not what you've done."
Yeah.
And when she said that, I was like, I'm guilty of that all the time. People ask you, you know,
Yeah.
by rattling off, but you're not really answering the
The
question.
shit that you've done.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, as an actor, in New York City, as an actor, coming to the concert with people you haven't seen, and a lot of times the people that you're working alongside, they become your family more than your own family, because you guys have more in common. And so a lot of times, this was around the time when I had quit the industry, I would see people, I'm like, hey man, how you doing? Oh man, I just had this audition, I did this, I did that. I'm like, I don't care about that, man, how are you doing? How are you doing, man? And then they were like, oh yeah, I'm doing all right, you know, and it just was like, all right, well, let's get down to that. Let's get down to that. And so I'm acutely aware of that even today, you know. With Moths Butterflies, HBO picked it up. It's gonna be on HBO this coming February. And
Congrats on that.
Oh, thank you. And I find myself in conversations with people like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, you know what? I'm doing really good. Sometimes I'm not. And they're like, no, I mean like, all right, cool, but like, what you doing next? And it's like, well, those are two separate questions. What am I doing next and how am I doing are two very different things.
I'm definitely of all the things that were in the film, I'm taking away a lot, but that's one thing. You know, when you ask that question, it's important to be intentional and ask it with the expectation that you'll get a genuine answer and actually demand that answer.
For sure.
Good question right here.
The female character in Moths Butterflies, what was her name?
Jillian Glasgow.
So I was interested in the process for writing her part, especially when she was describing what she'd been doing. I was thinking about it yesterday. A good friend of mine had a psychotic episode when we were in college, and it drastically changed my life because I saw someone go from being sane one day to just out of her mind the next. And since that time, I've encountered a lot of people that have mental health issues, and the way that the script went in her lines, I was sitting down with 2 or 3 of my friends, and they going through, my therapist said it, and it's all over the place. So I'm just curious to see your process for how you wrote that. It was very authentic.
Thank you for your question. So a couple of things. Well, start at the top. So story contributor Keith Alexander, he's actually opening a group home in Chester with my best friend. He deals with adults with bipolar, schizophrenia, and a variety of different unfortunate illnesses. And so we wrote the story in collaboration, but then unfortunately I have encountered a lot of people with bipolar disorder. And so I just started to go back and pull, but then also did research. And so a lot of times when I was writing, you know, Lenny, he keeps everything in. He's so tight because he's afraid. And Charisse, she's very like, you know what, this is what I'm thinking now, and then I'm gonna do this. By the way, I really want a hot dog. Do you want ice cream? I would love ice cream. And I was like, so I was trying to go to that space of, but she, if you look at the film, in all honesty, she's the one that needs more help than him. Because she's in a state of mania, but doesn't even recognize it. You know, and then Jillian, that's actually my girlfriend. And I've known Jillian since 2011. She's gonna be a Men in Black 4, go check it out. Her sensibility, she's got great comedic timing. And there was a lightness about Charisse that I knew, like, okay, she would murk this. Murk is slang for kill, which is slang for do well.
That was really a terrific film. Yeah, really,
Thank you.
really terrific.
Thank you.
Another question.
Well, just a comment. My first job out of college was working in a state institution that served kids. I was in the children's unit and served kids from Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant. A lot of the kids were African American. And you were talking about the stigma in the African American community. I just wonder if this might be an influence. A lot of those kids were there because they ran away from home too much. They were foster children. They were called ward to the state. They might have learning disabilities. They were just incarcerated. Yeah. And I just wonder if there's that association. Like if you admit that you have some kind of a issue, you might be incarcerated.
I don't really know about that part, that last part, but there is an alarming rate of foster kids with mental illnesses. As coincidentally, the backstory for Lenny is that he aged out of the foster care system. I'm developing this into a larger work, and his backstory is that he did age out of the foster care because not everyone who has schizoaffective disorder, like no two cases look the same. So, some of the symptoms, but that extra anxiety that exists, that comes from something else that I'm exploring now. But it's funny you said that. Okay, so another person, a really good friend, and another good friend of mine. He's actually from Richmond. July 2012, he began acting a little weird, you know? It's hard to explain. He's got a degree in IT. And then the summer of 2012 is when I began writing my first film. And then out of nowhere, he's like, you know, I've always wanted to make films. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I started to give him the little knowledge I had. September 2nd, my grandfather passes away. October 18th, he has a full-blown breakdown. And I didn't know what it was at the time because I wake up and have like 110 Facebook notifications. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like personal. I'm like, what happened? You know, so I go on and it's all from him. Now at the time I didn't know he had a breakdown. I'm just like, this is very weird. And it's like, fuck your whole family. And then you ain't this. And then it was a whole bunch of bizarre comments. And then I had 17 missed calls from him. And then one of the voicemails was, he was like speaking in tongues. So then I called his brother to figure out what was going on. And I called his mother. And his mother had been in the health profession for 35 years at that point. And he was having a full psychotic break. His brother had gotten married a week before the episode, and he was the best man. He was giving a toast, and during the toast, he was talking about aliens, Mitt Romney, and Scooby-Doo. During the best man toast. He clearly was not in his right state of mind. So I say all that to say this. I had a conversation with his mother. What are we gonna do about this guy? And she said, I'm just gonna let him sleep it off. Mind you, this son has been in the health field for 35 years. And she's telling her son, I'm just gonna let him sleep it off, and we're gonna give him some vitamins and vegetables. And her quote is, I don't want my son in the system. The problem is not that they're gonna be taken away. The problem is, again, stigma, because she wasn't looking out for her son, she was looking out for her ego and her quote unquote reputation. And that's the problem, is how we look at ourselves. It's the same thing with homosexuality. You know, the biggest problem is not how the outside world perceives, it's how you perceive yourself, the self-hatred. You know what I mean? That's what, you know, that's the biggest issue. Sure, there are people that are not going to accept you, but they never accepted you to begin with, you know what I mean? But it's, a lot of times, it's how we look at ourselves.
And then the other part, too, is trust issues.
For sure.
Yeah.
Trust issues. Yeah.
I saw you with your hand up earlier.
Yeah. In shooting a short film, constraints, motivations, how do you get to where you got it?
Which one? Olive, the black and white one, that was, I only had a little bit of money. So I was like, I called up, it's the same crew that I always work with. I was like, look, man, I got this idea. I had the song, and I crafted everything around the song. The poem in which Caleb is singing is 12th Night from one of the William Shakespeare, Homage is Mine from 12th Night William Shakespeare. And I read the lyrics, and it's about a court jester longing for a princess or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Court jester, invisible, he's wearing a mask. I actually wanted to wear a mask in it, but everyone talked me out of it. I was gonna be a clown, but everyone talked me out of it. And I knew that only had a day, because I had no money, and I wasn't about to take up other people's time. So a lot of times, your means defines the ends. In regards to Moths and Butterflies, again, I was obsessed with making that movie. A lot of people told me don't even do it, but I had a little bit of money, and I said, all right, I'm going to do this for 3 days, and I got the same crew back together. Amari Cheatham is a wonderful actor. You may have seen him in Django Unchained. You may have seen him in the latest Denzel film, not the latest, Roman Israel Esquire. Fantastic actor, and I just knew that I was like, yo, we're going to do this, and whatever happens, happens. But the process to getting it where it's at took about 9 to 10 months. We debuted in Brooklyn on April 30th, but we hadn't finished the film until March 8th officially. 5-6 rounds of audio edits, 15 different picture cuts. Is a lot. Because we're trying to, Amari's doing a lot of dramatic things. Jillian's doing a lot of, and Amari's doing some comedic stuff too. And then Jillian's doing a lot of stuff. And then there's, we're trying to find the right altitude to fly in where we could have everything and have the pacing be correct as well.
And what's the inspiration behind Olive, which is a very different film, had a different feel, different style. And we had Mama Ya.
Mama Ya, boy, you know Mama Ya?
Yeah, she's African City.
Ah.
Having a bit of
You Nigerian?
breakup. No, I'm not. But I'm a fan. I have a lot
Okay.
of West African friends.
Okay.
So there's a
She's
a
from
web
Ghana,
series.
actually.
Yeah, she's Ghanaian. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have some Nigerian cast members. There's this web series called African City that's very
Go
popular.
see it. Worldwide hit.
Yeah.
It's called, a lot of people's like the African Sex in the City. It's really good. Check it out. You know, there's actually an episode about the boyfriends coming over and doing a doo-doo in their bathroom. And they don't like it. It's pretty funny.
So a web series, I guess millennial West African women who've all gone abroad and, you know,
And it's really the same
Western
shit that women go
education,
through.
they return home and are trying to, I guess, become reacclimated
Yeah.
to West African society. But yeah, Mama Ya was in
Mhm.
Olive. I mean,
Yeah, Mama Ya's a good friend of mine. That apartment that I was in Amandu, that was my apartment. The actual influence behind Olive was my living situation. I was 3 months behind in rent. I was 5 months behind in rent. That's when I found out how lenient Con Edison is. Because I literally used to like go into my house and then like have my eyes closed and then like flip on the lights to see if it was still on. And I was like, all right, cool, we good. And I used to talk to my landlord. I'm like, listen, I know I'm like 120 days late, but I got you. Trust me, I got you. And so at that particular year, I had shot a film that was pretty successful in festivals, but I also felt kind of burnt out in regards to, I was going through a lot. So I was like, you know, I got to make something because I'm not making shit for a long time. And I shot Olive November 21st, 2015. I didn't make another film until 2017, which was Moths Butterflies. So I knew that I was going to have I just felt I'm not doing anything else for a while, so I just did it. And so the inspiration was my life. You know, the inspiration was literally, I was broke, and I was broke.
to break into your apartment.
I did have to break into my, that's how this is a true story. That's how I figured out I can do that, because I'd been locked out a couple of times. And I was like, oh wait, I could just climb in that way, you know? And that old apartment is still not rented, so if I need someplace to go, I know I could get in if I need to.
And now you're getting ready to premiere on HBO.
Yeah, February 1st.
February, okay.
HBO Go, HBO 2, HBO Now, HBO, like 19 different versions.
And what's next? You mentioned this feature film. How far along are you on that?
Man, you know what, I was talking to Enjoli, man, I have one that I'm really passionate about, and I have another one that is completely finished and ready to go. However, the one that I'm really passionate about, I'm going to make sure that goes first. So, the first quarter of 2019, you should hear more about it. I'm going to start doing promo and whatnot, and yeah.
You come back to VA.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, man, I'd be happy to be here.
All right.
What, can I just say something?
Yeah.
My first film is called A Saturday is a Terrible Thing to Waste. It's A Saturday, exactly. It stars myself and my mentor, late comedian Charlie Murphy. If you go on YouTube, it's on Issa Rae's YouTube page. Issa Rae Presents. You know, the more clicks it gets, the more I get paid. So, so go and watch it.
Say the name of it again.
A Saturday, like a brain is a terrible thing to waste. A Saturday is a terrible thing to waste. And it's me and a couple of great actors and Charlie Murphy.
So we just Google it, it'll take us straight to
It'll
the
take you straight, you'll
YouTube
take it in.
page.
Take
Okay.
it in.
That's good to know. Alfonso, thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for holding on.
Do we have time to I want to introduce you all to Enjoli real quick.
Enjoli, come in.
Yeah.
Come.
Yes, sir.
Come.
So again, Enjoli is the creative genius behind Afrikana Film Festival. And Enjoli, if you can give us a quick rundown of what Afrikana is and let them know why they need to come out and support.
Well, first, thanks for calling me up, and thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate your time and interest in this story. Afrikana is a film festival started in 2014 in Richmond, and is dedicated to showcasing the cinematic works of people of color from around the world. We do place a special focus on the global Black narrative. We look to create intimate and large-scale platforms for storytellers like Alfonso and other really brilliant Black filmmakers to come in and share their stories with the Richmond region. We started with this monthly film event called Noir Cinema, where we would screen one short film, bring in a filmmaker, do a talk, and then have a bit of a mixer afterward. And then over a couple of years, we grew and started to introduce additional programming like Movies and Mimosas, Even with an Icon, and now we have our multi-day festival, and we're going into our 3rd annual. So those cards you have, please, come join us.
And I don't know, taking over Broad Street, hitting up different art galleries downtown. I mean, it's a great experience. And typically, so this is the 2nd year we've done this with Virginia Film Festival. Last year, you pulled some of your favorite filmmakers from the festival. This year is a little bit more of a preview.
True. So typically, the multi-day festival happens the 3rd weekend of September. However, we had a little visitor named Florence that decided she might want to stop by. So basically, Richmond got shut down because of the threat of the storm, and we had to postpone the festival. So instead of this being a best of, this is more of a preview of what's to come. I say that with the exception of Olive. We screened Olive really the year that it was on the festival circuit, but it is just one of my favorite films over the years. I think Alfonso did a beautiful job telling the story, set to music, the softness of, yes, the storyline, but just the cinematography, his use of light. And I'm intrigued every time I watch. I know I've watched this film 20 times, and I never walk out of the room. I love it, yeah.
Could you talk a little about the 3rd film?
Figure. So Figure, in addition to my work with Afrikana, I'm the film curator at the Institute for Contemporary Art in Richmond. And that film came to me randomly. Someone found my email through the ICA and sent it to me. And I was at my desk and I was just blown away. All right, so I fell in total love with that film. These gentlemen, through dance and movement, telling the story of the personal struggle, the brotherhood struggle, and then the community struggle, right?
They opened it up to the group.
You know, like, you know, they take you on this evolution of freedom, you know? What does personal freedom look like? You know, that push and pull and how hard that can be sometimes, you know, just to come to terms with oneself, and then having to fight the idea of what it means to be masculine, but then what it means to be a Black man. We can't be vulnerable, we can't be close, we can't give hugs, we can't touch, you know, and so wanting that level of, and needing that level of intimacy and healing, you know, but being afraid of it because you've been taught that it means something else, right? And so for them to be able to tell that story without saying a word, I thought was really, really powerful.
It was brilliant.
I think so too. I loved it. I had the pleasure of screening it at this event at Martha's Vineyard, and we just did like 4 films, kind of like this, but they were more experiential, less narrative, and that was a crowd favorite there as well. It's one of my favorites right now, for sure. All of these are. I mean, I think Moths Butterflies is really powerful. I think the story that Alfonso is telling, bringing the idea of mental health in the Black community to the forefront, and doing it in a way that's not a documentary, right? You know, something where there are characters that you can get attached to, and there's this narrative where you can kind of take it away from yourself if you're feeling. Because sometimes documentaries can feel a little too personal, right? You can feel like someone's trying to teach you or point a finger. But when you see a story, you may see something reflected, but you can now have a conversation that you've been wanting to have, but make it Lenny's conversation, you know, instead of your own. And so, I don't know, I think Alfonso did it really brilliantly. I do think that even though it's a heavy topic, he spoke about the comedic timing of the actors. And if you allow yourself, you can feel that. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to laugh because of the subject matter. But there is a lightness to it that I think also is necessary because of subject matter. Are you really? Oh, I'm sorry.
And the first film, what was the name of that one?
That one was, Cross My Heart.
Oh, Cross My Heart.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
gosh.
also excellent. I just,
I'm so excited for Afrikana this year. Like, I mean, I'm excited every year. Like, these stories come across the desk, and it's like, people are out here doing brilliant work, really brilliant work. Sometimes with minimal resources, and they figure it out. They give high quality, well thought out storylines, production level, top notch, you know. And Cross My Heart is, I mean, right now it's one of my faves too. I mean, you all basically saw my faves, right? Some of my faves up here. But the level of intimacy that she was able to create with the cousins, oh gosh. It's hard to, you don't see that very often, you know, even with, you know, women. So to see that level of connection and trust and vulnerability, and the way that she played it out, where she kept her promise, but didn't, you know, I think it was brilliantly executed. I loved it.
Y'all gotta come out to Richmond, third annual Afrikana. Also, Enjoli has great programming that she's doing at ICA. If you all aren't familiar, Virginia Commonwealth University's new Institute for Contemporary Art opened this year. Enjoli is curating films for ICA and doing an incredible job, you know, sold out events.
Thank you. Well, come on out every second Wednesday of the month. We screen, and it's free. So please hop in the car and come on down and see us. We'd love to have you. But before I go, I do want to say, you know, Afrikana has been a really beautiful journey, but it's not a sole journey. I have a really great team of people who help to make everything happen. This doesn't happen in like a silo. So I have two of my wonderful team members here with us today. Ladies, please come forward. Yeah, we have Christina Moss and Carla Stone. And so they're gonna act shy, but they're not at all. And but these ladies are part of a team of women who basically make sure Afrikana happens. It is no small feat to pull off, you know, a festival with 30, 40 films, you know, X amount of filmmakers showing up, you know, 10 venues that you're managing, and, you know, everyone's working and they make time, and they have been like with the team for years. Like, it's not just like a fly-by-night. They've been extremely committed, and so I just want to make sure I shout them out as well. So please give them another round. And if you guys ever want to come and join us for the festival and be a volunteer, we're always looking for people who want to come and help us out. So if you're interested, feel free to stop by one of them.
All the information is at this website.
Yes,
Go to
ma'am.
the website, we get all that.
Yes, ma'am. So the schedule that you see will be updated. So let me say that. Because of the date change, we've had some filmmakers that had to change their schedule. But those are the dates, yes, ma'am. And if you're interested you can go on there and sign up for our newsletter, as well as if you want to be a volunteer or make a donation. All those options are there.
Follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
All those. All the places.
Thank you, Afrikana.
Thank you.
Alfonso, thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you also for joining us today. See you in Richmond.
are there more of the
Thank you,
cards?
Justin. Yes, yes, yes.